All right, so Daryl, if you're going to kick a field goal, what do you think? What do you think your strategy would be for kicking said field goal?
I believe I would try to kick the ball in such a way that it went through both goalposts.
I mean, that's the optimal strategy.
Right.
But here's what I would not do. I would not do what Kentucky did and send out a freshman kicker named Chance Poore to kick a field goal.
Wait. Oh, no. Oh, that's really his name?
That's really his name. And guess what? He missed it.
No, my God. Wow. I missed a lot. I wish I could have seen that.
Yeah, it's,
I would have been dying laughing seeing that.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Was his last name Poor or was it like Pour, like pour?
I think it's Poore.
Wow. What's his middle name? R?
Yeah. That'd be like if you...
Or is. Sorry, proper grammar. His name's not Chances.
Yeah, you're going to... That'd be like going to a doctor to have like a biopsy and your doctor's name is like Hugh G. Toomer or something like that.
Hugh G. Toomer. Doctor, there was somebody, I was in a meeting a couple of weeks ago at work, and somebody mentioned that their doctor's last name was Bad Doctor, so it was Dr. Bad Doctor.
That's hilarious.
I would not go to Dr. Bad Doctor.
I would not either. I don't think I'd go to Dr. Payne either. I know there's a bunch of those.
He would send you to a pharmacy.
Ha 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 ha.
That's what I did there.
Yeah. So, all right, you want to take the? Do you want to do the intro?
Yeah. Hey, good morning, everybody. My name is Daryl. This is my co-host Spencer. Welcome to the Gameday broadcast, the Gameday Breakfast podcast. We've got a packed show for you today.
Yeah, what's going on, everybody? What's up? We had a wild weekend. A wild weekend this past weekend in college football.
Yeah, we did. It was wild yet tame at the same time because it wasn't like there was a whole lot of crazy games going on or anything like that. Yeah. But
and most of the games went the way that they were supposed to go. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Like
the Florida game.
Yeah, the Florida-Kentucky game. That game was wild.
What's one thing that surprised you this weekend and one thing that did not surprise you?
Surprised me about Kentucky surprised me because I didn't expect them to do as good. Terry Wilson, their quarterback, was out and all this other type of stuff, but I didn't expect them to do as good as they did against Florida. And what didn't surprise me was Alabama and South Carolina, even though obviously I wanted South Carolina to win. I thought they had a chance to hang around, and they kind of did for a while, but they just didn't. They didn't do what I thought. There's a precedent for them upsetting Alabama when Alabama is highly ranked, and they didn't live up to it. So, but it didn't really surprise me because Alabama's really good.
It's interesting because the game that didn't surprise me was the Kentucky game. I have not been very big on Florida, and obviously they came out and they got the job done against Miami. And at the time, I wanted to say like Miami was sort of a bigger deal than I think they really are. But after going against North Carolina and losing that game, I kind of think that maybe Miami wasn't as big a deal as I think they were. And I think Florida just may not really be a top 10 team.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's very unfortunate that they lost Felipe Franks, and that was later in the game. And I know that they mounted a comeback to win it. But I really thought Kentucky was going to get away with it, and I was not very surprised. I thought Florida would probably get the win, but I did think Kentucky had a serious chance to win, and they definitely showed me that. So I was not surprised by that.
Yeah. That game was wild, though. I watched the end of that game while we were at the grocery store, and it was just insanity.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that did surprise me, though, was your Tigers, actually. And obviously, down the stretch, they got things together, heavily outscoring Northwestern State in the second quarter and throughout the rest of the game. But I was a little shocked to see that they let up a touchdown in the first half, actually 2 touchdowns, and they were actually outscored in the first quarter. So I don't know if they just sort of and it was at home too. So I don't know if they just sort of choked out the gate or if they just had a little bit of a stall getting started.
Yeah.
Obviously, it wasn't a long-term problem, but do you think there's any concern for that defense, especially after letting Texas put up over like 400 yards on them?
The optimist in me wants to say no. Like, obviously, being an LSU fan, it's just, I think it was sometimes, regardless of how good you are, you might play the level of your competition for a little while. And so I really don't know what it was. I didn't get to watch much of the game because it was on the SEC. It was on the SEC network. I just only saw highlights. But I think we ended up winning like 55-14.
It was 65-14. Shelton Epler, the quarterback for Northwestern, he put up he went 21 of 38, 225, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and this was just surprising because with a defense like LSU with how many DBs they are, could just be a factor of this Shelton Epler being like a wise player. He seems to me from what little I saw that if he's going to leave a pass. If he's going to miss a pass, he's going to miss in such a way that he overthrows both players, or he doesn't try to sort of push the bill on the windows. Maybe he's just very secure with the ball. But typically, when you see a big top 10 defense like that go against a lesser opponent, especially one that's 0-3 right now, you'd like to see them come away with something. But I mean, maybe that's nitpicking. But
yeah, I don't know. I think that guy's been at Northwestern State for a little while. Again, I don't know much about Northwestern State, but like obviously he's. He's very secure with the football, and maybe that was just it.
Could be. I mean, like I said, it may not be anything of really concern, but it was interesting to think that because and the reason I say anything is because when I tuned in, LSU was only up by I think like 3. So I think it was pretty. Excuse me, they were only up by like 3. I think it was 17-14. And so I thought, wow, is this actually a game? Then they went down and scored, and of course didn't turn back. But I almost texted you. I was like, "Hey, man, is everything all right down there? Like, what's going on?"
It doesn't really concern me as much, and maybe that's my bias. But I just think sometimes in these games, your offense is trying different things. Like, not to talk bad about Northwestern State, but this was obviously like a guaranteed win. Just the level of play that we have that an SEC team has is going to be, obviously that much greater than a Southland Conference team because they're FCS, so they play in the same conference as Lamar and McNeese and Sam Houston and SFA. And that's not to take any credit from them because they can still be a very good team.
I mean, I don't think we have to defend sort of the smaller schools. It's just when you go against a Power 5 opponent and you're not a Power 5 team, it's just the level of play is different.
Yeah, the level of recruiting you're going to get is different. But it was cool because Northwestern State is Coach Orgeron's alma mater. That's where he went and played football at. So.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, I bet that's fun. I bet.
Yeah.
I'm sure that was something that they talked about during the game in the booth when they were sort of up by 30 and they needed to talk about something.
Yeah. There's a really cool picture of him. He was like a defensive end or something like that. There's an old school picture of him from when he was in college, wearing number 77, just standing there in like a pose. It's really funny.
Yeah. Something impressive I see from this game, Joe Burrow was 21-24, averaging 15.5 yards a throw. Mm-hmm. This offense is scary. I mean, he's not doing the dink and dank sort of get a couple of yards. This is chunks. I mean, this is
air it out. Let's get this.
Exactly.
Let's get this done.
If their defense continues to struggle, or if it doesn't at least straighten things out a little bit, maybe we will have a very high-scoring game against Alabama this year. That would be interesting to see.
I would love to see that.
The final score is like 55-49 or something.
That would be nuts for two SEC defense powerhouses. I don't expect that, but that would be wild.
Yeah, it'd be really wild. But I'd take it. It'd be good television right there.
That'd be great television. But yeah, so
what's our first?
Anything I was going to ask you? Anything you want to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, I have an interesting thing to talk about actually. Something that sort of dampers my experience watching college football. One of the things that I slightly will prefer about the NFL, and I've mentioned this in previous podcasts, but I figured let's just go ahead and blow it out and talk about it. So there's something called in video games a negative feedback loop or a positive feedback loop, right? So if you look at, let's just say you pick up Mario Kart, right? There's something called a negative feedback loop. So if you're in first place, you're going to get kind of whatever items. You're going to get like a green shell, which is not really that much help. You're going to get like a coin, not really much help. But you're in first place, so you don't need it. And if you're in last place, you're going to get stuff like the blue shell, the things that go and kill whoever's in first place. You're going to get some crazy item that's going to shoot you up a bunch of pieces or a bunch of places in the race. And the idea is that it keeps it balanced and entertaining. It's a party game. There's no sort of unfairness in that one person is going to dominate. They really want it to sort of be more dramatic and fun. The reverse of that is a negative feedback loop. The reverse of that is a positive feedback loop, to where the better you're doing, the better you're actually things are going to get for you. Things will snowball for better and for worse. So like in Call of Duty, if you get a bunch of kills in a row, it's a kill streak, and every kill that you get again, it sort of increases your stats. You get to use different items to call an airstrike or whatever. But the point is it's sort of like in basketball. It's like make it, take it. Yeah. On the simplest level, it's like make it, take it versus you make it, you turn the ball back over. One is designed for drama, and one is designed for you do well, you get better, and and if you do worse, you do worse. It's sort of a snowball effect in both ways. One thing that bothers me about college football, and it will always be this way, and it's okay, it's just a difference between this and the NFL, is that the NFL has a negative feedback loop, and college football has a positive one. So what I mean by that is, if you're Alabama or you're Clemson and you're playing very well, right? You bring in a solid coach, you get a good program going, you're winning national championships, you're making the playoff every year, you're winning big bowl games, you're going to get better recruits because your program is much more attractive to athletes coming out of high school. And this is not just football, by the way. This is all collegiate sports in general. Yes. The better your team's doing, the better your program looks, the more recruits you get. And obviously you're going to stay in power for a long time, which is why Alabama stays where they are. If it was a situation like the NFL where a worse team has to take a lower pick and better teams or worse teams get better picks, then things begin to level out a lot, right? So if you look at the Giants, they picked up Saquon Barkley. Well, they had a horrible year, so since they're in last place, they're going to get the blue shell. In this case, it was Saquon Barkley. They got a really nice blue shell or a really nice bullet bill or whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. And that, to me, the NFL will always be more relaxing to watch for me because wins and losses mean less. Yeah. In the grand scheme, you see what I'm saying? In the grand scheme of things, if the Cowboys go and lose a game, okay, well, number one, they can lose a game and still make the playoffs. They can lose 4 games and still make the playoffs, right? So that's one part of it.
Yeah, you can lose up to 6 games in the NFL and still make the playoffs.
Exactly. But that's one part of it. But let's just say the Cowboys have a horrible season like they did. Well, what are they going to get for that horrible season? Well, they're going to bounce back because they're going to go pick up Ezekiel Elliott, and then they're going to go have a lot better season the next year. And so it sort of keeps things in this interesting mix where no one's ever really on top. Of course, you have your people like the Patriots who just stick with their good players. Obviously, Tom Brady is one of a kind. And it's a great program because they just know what they're doing. It's great coaching. It's a great philosophy. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that is, of course, Belichick. A lot of it is Brady. But all that aside, the point I'm trying to get at is that I can relax a lot more and enjoy, I think, a lot more when I watch NFL games. However, college football just means so much more. It's very frustrating because a loss is not just a loss. It's also potentially losing recruits. It's also potentially future losses. Wins will snowball and losses will snowball in college football, whereas NFL, not so much. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I completely get that. And one loss in college football matters unless your name is Alabama, but that's a whole other story for a different day.
Right, that'll be a whole other podcast. But that's just something I sort of wanted to get off my chest. And again, that's not something that will ever change. I don't think it's something that should change because I don't want it to be a situation where a player has to go to a worse team out of high school because, oh, they had a really good year last year, so I can't, I have to wait to go to them. This team had a bad year, I have to go to them. If you're entering a business, a multi-million-dollar business, and you're getting paid, and you have potentially you can be in it for several years, and you can trade. That the NFL is a different story. It makes sense for them to have a draft with it that's sort of reversed like that. But in college football, of course, you should come out of high school and be able to go exactly where you want to go, even if that means going to the best place. Exactly. But of course, you're gonna have to find a starting spot there. So that's what sort of keeps things interesting.
But that's the beauty of college athletics, right? Like, regardless if we're talking about football or baseball or basketball, like especially like in college basketball, like Division I men's college basketball. And women's, too. Like, I don't really follow women's college basketball that much. I know UConn's, like, the best program right now. But the beauty of that is you get these, like, magical Cinderella runs. Like, 2 or 3 years ago when Loyola Chicago made the Final Four. Like, I wanted them to win the whole championship, Or, like, you get the UMBC Ramblers. They were the ones, they pulled off the first 16 seed beating a 1 seed. That had never happened before. And they did it in convincing fashion. They beat Virginia.
Yeah.
And so
it really is the silver lining because it creates true underdogs.
Yeah, which is why the college football playoff needs to be something different than what it is. It's fine right now, and I know it's going to expand in the future, but it's kind
baby steps.
Yeah, it's kind of upsetting to me that from everywhere from like your office's rec league softball all the way up to college men's basketball, we can figure out a bracket and how to determine a true champion and have a true playoff. But for major Division I college football, we can't do that. Like, it's just something wrong, in the
right. Yeah,
the way it's done. And like we could do 4 podcasts about just that alone, but there needs to be
an HBO series and
like we could talk for days about that. But like the FCS playoffs, like I just want there to like we're talking about D1 FBS. I just want there to be a chance for there to be a Cinderella story. Like your Boise States, your UCFs, your Western Michigans, your whoever, they go on this magical run, beat everybody in the thing. And, this ties into my opinion that strength of schedule is complete and utter baloney. Like
let me this to just to poke not a hole in your argument, but just to poke a little disturbance into it. Do you think there's a factor of the sport itself as far as creating a Cinderella story? You look at it like you look at the year of Boise State versus
Oklahoma.
That was a very important year. Big 12 defense is obviously not as historically big and as as SEC defenses. If it would have been an SEC team, maybe things would have been different. The point I'm getting at is that do you think in college basketball, it's about drawing up plays, it's obviously about size, but the sport is different. You can have your Cinderella stories, I think, a lot easier in basketball just because I think the differences between the leagues are less significant. I think it's easier to there's only 5 guys on the field. Is it 5? I don't watch a lot of basketball.
5.
It's 5, right?
5 on the court for each team.
I was so worried I was going to sound dumb.
No, it's 5.
But with it being such a big production and so many more injuries in football, do you think it's realistic that a smaller sort of off the wall college football team is going to come in and then beat somebody like an Alabama that has the incredible depth and incredible size? Do you think that's like realistic?
What I don't know. Whether or not it's
basketball,
realistic or not.
In basketball, it is. In basketball, it is because the significant differences between Power 5 and non-Power 5, I don't think are that big. I think it is there in college football.
Yeah,
but,
and I agree. Like I agree that the difference is bigger. Like obviously in Alabama, a Clemson, an LSU, an Auburn, a Texas A&M, whoever we're talking about, in Big Ten teams, Michigan, Ohio State, Wisconsin, they're obviously going to get the higher level recruits. They're going to have the depth. And so is it realistic? Maybe not. But I want the chance of it happening. Because you want the story.
Course.
You want the chance of an Appalachian State beating Michigan. You want the chance of a Boise State beating in Oklahoma. You want the chance for those things to happen. And I'm not saying
Army beating a Michigan.
An Army beating a Michigan, exactly. Like you just want the chance for those things to happen. And I'm not saying I just wish we could probably we should do away with the whole Power 5 Group of 5 thing and expand the playoff. But again, we could go into that, we could do a whole show about that. But I just want, and I'm not saying that if you're undefeated, you should automatically go to the national championship. But I think if you're undefeated, you should have a chance to play for the national championship. So, like,
absolutely,
2 seasons ago when UCF was undefeated and beat Auburn in the Peach Bowl, they were the only undefeated team in the country, yet somehow they got left out of the playoff. Like, regardless of what your conference is, regardless of what your schedule is, regardless of who you played, you should, if you go undefeated, you should have a chance to play for the national championship. I'm not saying you automatically get into the championship. I'm not saying you should automatically get into the higher bowl games, but if you should have a chance. So they should have made the playoff. But again, we could talk for days about that.
Preaching this week.
Yeah, it's just
I couldn't agree with you more, man. I mean, I want to see it, and I think it makes for better television. I mean, I think we can do with one less A&M versus Lamar.
Yeah, and see, I have my ideas about how we improve the playoff, and if we really want to we get away with this whole Power 5 Group of 5 thing, and then we take all these independents and make them be in a conference, or if there's conferences that aren't as eviled out power level, we disband some conferences, and if we want to go like Power 5 Group of 5, let's expand let's take all the teams and shuffle them around. Instead of going 10 conferences, we get it down to 8 conferences, or we get it down to 6 conferences.
In the comment section. Can we get like an all caps expand in the comment section if you're listening to this part of the podcast?
Oh, for sure. But
I just imagine like the capital letters all separated, expand.
Yeah, so it's like we get it, we expand the conferences. Let's say, we go all the Power 5 conferences. Let's say they all should have 16 teams, which I agree with. But then you're taking teams from other ones, and then you could probably dissolve some conferences, which people probably don't want. There's money and TV deals lined up in conferences. So this is a big, dramatic thing that would take years to implement.
And that's kind of why I made the comparison to basketball, is because obviously a collegiate basketball game is a big production, but it's nowhere near the production that a college football game is.
Oh, for sure. And all my ideas are. Obviously, my ideas are maybe kind of radical. There's money involved, there's contracts involved. It would take years to stack some of this stuff into place, but it can be done. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and I think that the demand is there for it. I think the demand is definitely there for it. Mm-hmm. I just think it's going to, like you said, take some time. But in a perfect world, that's where I think we're headed. Yeah,
it's just going to take. It's going to take.
We got 4 weeks step too.
Yeah. The BCS system was complete and utter dog doo-doo.
Language, please.
Yeah, it was.
God, this is a kid's show.
Yeah, it was that. The BCS was hot garbage.
Oh, let me ask you this. Speaking of hot garbage, watch the Houston versus Washington State game, but you said you watched quite a bit of it, did you not?
Yeah, I did.
What's the biggest thing you saw away from Houston, because they had a good chance to pull it out, didn't they?
Yeah, they only lost by a touchdown. They just couldn't get their offense going, and they threw a couple interceptions. Yeah. They had a couple. I think they had a fumble that was weird go their way. They just couldn't They couldn't be the Houston offense, I know. And so, it sucks to have them be. I think they're 1-2. They might be 0-2 right now. I don't know if they've played any other games.
Yeah. Well, at least they ran the ball well, because they were struggling through the air. They only put up 128 through the air, 1 passing touchdown. But yeah, they ran the ball quite well.
Yeah.
So I think if they could have, this is one of those times where I think a defense sort of forces the quarterback to throw.
Yeah.
And if the quarterback can't do that, they take running off the table. Yeah. Ran pretty well, but it was a one-dimensional offense. Anytime you do that, it's
for sure. And it's Washington State. Their head coach is Mike Leach. That dude's an offensive genius, and I think their quarterback. I don't know. I can't remember his name. Washington State's quarterback currently. But he's top
Anthony
3.
Gordon?
Anthony Gordon, yes. He's top 3 in the country right now in passing yards and passing stats.
Yeah, he put up 440.
Yeah, but that's going to be anybody in that system. We never heard of Gardner Minshew until last year, and now he's starting for the Jaguars. That man's a legend. But so you know. But yeah, like I said, I like Houston. They're probably my third team behind LSU and A&M. But, just having a bit of a down year, And I like De'Aaron King. I think he's going to be a high pick in the draft. I just think it's going to take a year or two for Coach Holgorsen to get his system in place.
How do you feel about Florida staying in the top 10?
Are they still in the top 10?
Yeah, they're 9 in the AP, 8 in the coaches.
Well,
you sound disgusted, dog.
It's just like, why? Like,
oh God, I can't believe it.
Maybe I'm just.
It'll make you happy to see that in both polls, Boise State went up too.
Oh, for sure. And like, there's new people in the, people have moved in. I think USC and a couple other people went out, and then Arizona State, TCU, and
Kansas State, K-State.
K-State was in the top 25?
In the coaches,
Okay.
But they got votes, and they're just outside.
I think Arizona State
these little Big 12s.
Who else moved in?
Oklahoma State wants to sneak in. They're like one out. They're like number 26.
I know
Virginia came in.
Was Virginia not ranked? I thought they were already ranked.
It was not ranked. They came in. I think they were at like the top of the barrel.
Okay.
Just peeping in. So yeah, we had a couple, and that's one thing you like about as the season progresses. You get some of these teams that win the games they should, have no reason to and looked impressive, and they kind of sneak into the top.
Mm-hmm.
The top 25. It makes for more interesting games. Anytime you got that big fat number sitting next to a team, it just makes the game automatically more interesting.
Yeah. That did you catch any of that Arizona State Michigan State game?
Oh no, I didn't. How was that?
That game was insane. Okay. So Michigan State's got the ball. It's 10-7 Arizona State, right? Michigan State marches down. They get in field goal range, and there's only a few seconds left. So they go to kick the field goal, tie it 10-10, and take it into overtime, right? Kicker makes the field goal, but they get called for 12 men on the field, get called for the penalty, back it up 5 yards. He kicks it again and misses it. Arizona State wins the game.
Oh.
Yeah, it did. Ridiculous. So that's why
Michigan State special teams giveth, and Michigan State special teams taketh away.
Yeah. And like Michigan State was 18, and that's why Arizona is up to, where are they at? Arizona State, they're up to 24 because...
Wow.
But yeah, so...
How one penalty can change so much.
Yeah. But I think Virginia, TCU, and Arizona State jumped into the top 25, and the USC, Michigan State, and somebody else left the top 25. It was Cal. It was Cal, Arizona State, and TCU got into the top 25.
And the coaches they put K-State in instead of TCU, which is
just fine. I mean, TCU's 25. You could probably flip either one of those.
Yeah.
Speaking of TCU, I would like to tell you a funny story.
Well, let me hear it.
Okay, so you familiar with any of the rivalry trophies that Big Ten teams play for?
I am familiar with 2 of them.
Yeah. So I think I told you about Minnesota and Wisconsin.
Familiar with the 2 that you told me about.
Yeah, Minnesota and Wisconsin, they play for Paul Bunyan's Axe, and then I told you about USC and Notre Dame. They play for the Jules Shillelagh.
Which sound like if you ever watched Shaolin Showdown on the WDB growing up, it sounds like Shengong Wu, like these mystical items. That's way too specific of a reference. Yeah,
somebody's gonna get it though.
Yeah, somebody will get it. No, they just sound like these mythical items that you could. You know what they sound like? They sound like an item you could pick up at Magic the Gathering. And
for sure.
Yeah, sound like an artifact.
That's what they sound like. And this all got brought about because of the Iowa State game. They play for the CyHawk Trophy, which is fantastic, and they did this whole thing on Gameday about it. And I'll link it in the description of the video when we get it uploaded, and I'll link that video that they did. And it was like back in I think it was 1977 was the first, 76 or 77 was the first year they played for it. And these guys were just in this. They were some friends that were in a bowling league, and they were like, this game should have a trophy. And so they just came up, they all pooled their money together, and they went to a trophy store and had a trophy made. And it was just like a guy and a football on top of like a wooden box. and they had to like come up with this like fake business name to have the like a club to have the trophy like be official or whatever. But they played for that one, and then they changed it a couple times. There was one that never got to see the light of day. There was like a family of farmers on the top of it. They never used that one, and then they changed to the one it is today. And so that's what I love the stories behind some of these trophies. But I'm gonna tell you my favorite one, right? So TCU and SMU play. Their game is called the Battle for the Iron Skillet.
Gordon Ramsay come out and present it.
That'd be
to
nice.
The winner.
No, he doesn't. But TCU and SMU are obviously they are a rival of proximity because TCU is in Fort Worth and SMU is in Dallas. So they're literally like 15, 17 miles from each other. So they're a rivalry of location, and they're also, they're religious schools. Obviously, SMU is Southern Methodist, and TCU is Texas Christian. So that kind of
lots of skillets in the Bible makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, sure. But so here's the story about how it happened. The first meeting between these two teams was October 18th, 1915, and TCU won 43-0. The story,
TCU won it?
TCU won the first meeting, yes. The story was it began, this tradition, the Battle for the Iron Skillet began in 1946. There was an SMU fan tailgating in the parking lot, and he was frying frog legs as a joke at his little tailgate because TCU used the Horned Frogs. So he was frying frog legs, which is delicious. I like frog legs. And so a TCU fan saw him, and he was like, and he told him that eating the frog legs was like moving, that was like going beyond the rivalry, and they should let the game decide who gets the skillet and the frog legs. So SMU won the game, and then the skillet and the frog legs went to SMU, and then it spilled over to the actual iron skillets passed between the winner. Now, that was SMU's version of the story. TCU's version of the story was that it's that same thing happened, but they kind of heard that story, and then they came up with the two schools like governing bodies. They met in Dallas to set up the rules of a traveling trophy, and then they decided on the Iron Skillet. And I just think that's hilarious, Like I like TCU. I wanted to go there when I was in high school, so they always have a soft spot for me. And one of the notable games back in 1953, TCU and SMU actually, they played for the Southwestern Conference title, but they also both played in the Rose Bowl. So, but yeah. But, TCU currently leads the rivalry 51-40-7. The largest victory was TCU, 56-0 in 2014.
Did you say 51-40-7? There were 7 ties?
Yeah. Well, because it used to be ties back in the day.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I guess that makes sense. It's still 7 ties.
Yeah.
Those ties are so hard to come by. Even if they're allowed, they're just hard to come by.
Well, way back in the day, there used to be no overtime rules in college football. So
and they would just end it on the dot.
Yeah. So the longest win streak was SMU. They won 15 in a row between 1972 and 1986. And, that was back in the days when SMU was a powerhouse, in the days when they had Eric Dickerson and the Pony Express was him and his other running backs. That's what they called them. But the current win streak is TCU has 7 in a row going back to 2012. So
I'm looking at this skillet, and I'm a little disappointed. First of all, it is very clearly a skillet, and Spencer will put links in the description. It's very much a skillet, but there's a plaque like in the middle of it. So I was thinking, man, you could totally cook in it, but because of the plaque, I don't think you could actually do that.
Oh, that'd be hilarious if they actually cooked in it.
Yeah, I wonder if this is like actually the same skillet that the whole thing started out on. They just passed it along.
I would love that. I need to.
That's true. I'm sure it's not, but boy, I really hope it's true.
Yeah, I haven't actually looked at the skillet in a long time.
It's very brown. There's no seasoning on it whatsoever.
Yeah, they need to season it.
Yeah, they got put some oil on there, make it smoke.
Yeah, so that's just a funny story I wanted to tell.
I love that.
I thought you'd get a kick out of that one.
That's the stuff that makes college football special. It's just
for sure, 100%.
national championship recruiting, commercials, all the nonsense aside, like that's the fun stuff right there. Like being in college, going to those games, like telling the stories. That's the best.
Yeah, and like obviously there's other like a lot of the trophies they're in the Big Ten. There's the CyHawk Trophy for Iowa and Iowa State, and then there's Paul Bunyans Axe, Minnesota and Wisconsin, and then there's the Floyd of Rosedale, which is like a big bronze pig that Iowa and Minnesota play for.
Bronze pig.
Yeah, it's literally it's called the Floyd of Rosedale, but it's just a pig on like a plaque. I don't know the history behind that one, but it's just funny. But there are a few in the South, like obviously the Iron Skillet, SMU and TCU, and then there's that golden cowboy hat that Oklahoma and Texas play for every year when they play.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, you got anything else you want to talk about? I'm sorry that if that went long. I apologize.
No. That was awesome. And I don't mind rambling, especially when it's like a really cool story.
Yeah.
So yeah, that just adds so much richness to the game.
Currently, the SMU TCU rivalry, it's not like hotly contested or anything like that, but that's just my favorite trophy that people play for because the story is hilarious.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So.
I do have something I want to talk about. I want to talk about these games we have next weekend because we actually have a couple good ones.
Yeah, there's some actual ranked versus ranked, ranked team versus ranked team this week.
Yeah, we're gonna switch it up a little bit. So speaking of ranked teams, like I said, we have a lot of really big time matchups. Let's open with two not ranked teams. Let's go straight to the bottom of the barrel game.
Yeah.
Right out the gate, we have the New Mexico State Aggies and the New Mexico Lobos. Spencer, who you got and why?
The Lobos because I like their color scheme, and sometimes they run a bit of a triple option offense, and I like their mascot. Their logo is cool.
I'm going to go with New Mexico State. I'm going to go with the Aggies just because they are 0-3, and that tells me that this team has nothing to lose because they've already lost everything.
They also wear maroon, just like your Aggies do.
They do, and they played Alabama this year, so nothing that they see this weekend is going to shock or surprise them.
Oh, for sure.
I'm taking them, man.
Yeah.
It's going down. We disagree on the bottom of the barrel game, so prepare to
go
prepare
Lobos.
to be very wrong. No,
Yeah.
let's go.
Go Lobos. But yeah,
let's root for all the Aggies this weekend.
Yeah. So are you also rooting for the Utah State Aggies?
Ooh, what are they? Okay, so hold on, Utah.
I don't even know if they play this week, to tell you the truth.
Okay, gotcha.
But Utah State is also the Aggies.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm totally rooting for them because of that exact reason. So,
yeah,
the Aggies will go 3-0 this weekend.
Utah State, they play at San Diego State.
Yeah, they're going. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
it's gonna be a big weekend for all the Aggies.
Yeah.
Now that that's out of the way, why don't you give me a sneak peek into what's going to happen again with LSU and Vandy?
It's going to be a blowout. LSU's going to get them.
You think so? They got to go to Vandy, man.
I mean, Vanderbilt doesn't have a win. Like, they're unwin-feeded right now.
Yeah, and guess what they're looking for?
But it ain't going to be this week. I'm sorry. LSU's offense is too good. Defense is too good. Vanderbilt's playing very sloppily. It is an SEC conference game, so you never want to count anybody out, but I got LSU big in this one.
I can guarantee you that Vandy's going to have the better looking helmets.
Probably. Because they're probably going to wear.
Nice.
Are they wearing those crazy ones I sent you earlier?
I think so. They're going to have those big sensual looking
like chains and anchors all over it.
Anchors on the sides.
That all gray looks really good. So, since we just talked so much about it, tell me about SMU at number 25 TCU. Who you got now?
Is that this weekend? I have to watch that now.
Yeah,
that's my new recliner game.
Yeah, that's why I told you about it because they're playing this week.
Let me actually look at the matchup because I don't have any information behind it. What do you think? Let me go and get that out of the way.
TCU by a lot.
They're ranked, huh?
Yeah, 25. They're ranked number 25, but SMU is 3-0. So I think it'll be a good game. It's a rivalry game. It's not like a hotly contested rivalry game, but it'll probably be high scoring. But I got TCU.
Yeah.
The Mustangs and the Horned Frogs.
They got to go to TCU.
Yeah, they're playing in Amon G. Carter, so yeah. Give me the Horned Frogs.
coming off. SMU's coming off of a big win against a very respectable offense in Texas State with Spavital going over there, especially having to go no, they had him at home. Yeah, I don't know. I think they got a lot of momentum. I think that TCU will be leading for a good part of this game, but SMU makes a push late. I think TCU is going to kick a field goal. They're going to have to bring it back, and then they're going to miss it. So that's how I think that SMU wins the game. So I'm taking SMU.
Oh, you're going to go with the Mustangs in this one. All right. I like that.
Mustangs.
It surprises me that there's not more teams called the Mustangs. You know, there's SMU, and then I think Western Michigan. No, Western Michigan's the Broncos. But like, it surprises me that more teams in college football aren't the Mustangs.
It's you're either the Mustangs. Excuse me. You're either the Broncos or the Colts. Those are like the bigger horse related. There's not a lot of Mustangs.
But I guess we obviously both went to West Orange Stark, so being the Mustangs for so long, it just surprises us that the Mustangs isn't a bigger deal.
You'd think so, right? But I mean, hey, I dig it. It makes us cool.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
Neat.
So
we're mascot hipsters, you and I.
Yeah. So tell me about number 10, Utah at USC.
Utah at USC. Let me go ahead and pull it up real quick.
Also, shout out to my classmate Justin Thomas, who went to Utah and played for Utah from 2012 to 2015.
What's he doing?
He's good. He's real good. The last time I saw him was, he's not playing anymore, but last time I saw him was under some unfortunate circumstances that I'm not going to talk about right now. But yeah, he had a good career.
Yeah, very, very nice guy. I remember him talking to him a handful of times through high school.
I remember when I was younger, me and him played basketball together, like upward basketball, and he was the best one on our team.
Yeah. It's a tall man.
Yeah.
Very tall man.
I think he's like 6'2", 6'3". He's tall.
I was always looking at him. I remember always looking up at him and being like, man.
Yeah, and you're pretty tall yourself, so.
Let's see. We got the Utes and we got the Trojans. USC just lost a big one to BYU in overtime.
That game was nuts, by the way.
I'm sure it was. BYU has a thing about winning games they shouldn't. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyways, it's interesting. This is a very small tangent. It's interesting because I feel like a lot of times the top 25 is picked based on simply the week before, right?
Mm-hmm.
So literally the top 25 is more of a gauge of the momentum of the season rather than how good a team actually is. And here's why. A&M's 8. Auburn is number 8. A&M is number 17, right?
Mm-hmm.
A&M's 4-point favorite.
Yeah.
But they're also being outranked by 9, so you do the math on that. The Utes here are number 10.
Mm-hmm.
D is unranked. USC's favored to win by 57.9% on ESPN's index.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe ESPN's drunk and needs to go home, but I was really considering picking USC before I even opened this page. And I don't know, man. It's something about the top 25 really makes me feel like in a lot of cases it really is the gauge of the momentum of the season as opposed to team actually is holistically.
Yeah. I mean, a few years ago, Utah was doing really good, and they had to play USC, and their quarterback threw like 3 interceptions to like the same guy, and it was just a bad game for them. And like, USC, I'm neutral about USC, but USC has this propensity. They'll talk about them at the beginning of the season. They'll be like, oh, USC's going to be great. USC's going to be great. They're going to be this. They're going to be that. And then they come out, and they're just hot garbage. But then they'll play in a game that they should lose, and then they'll blow the other team out. Like, it's like if you're going to suck, just be bad. Like, don't interrupt somebody else's season. Like, if you're going to be garbage, be garbage. You know what I mean? Don't ruin somebody else's season.
I need a shirt, a maroon shirt that just says, it says, don't interrupt my season. And then it has the Mississippi State logo with a big X through it. As an A&M fan, I need that shirt.
We can make that happen.
It's every year. just if things are going so well, and then Mississippi State's like, "Hey, you forgot about us, didn't you?" And then they just mow us over. Oh my God!
They're like, "Hey, you forgot about that other SEC team that also wears maroon and has Adidas uniforms."
Don't interrupt my season. Yeah,
Also, I'm picking Utah.
Okay, cool. Because I'm going with USC. I think they're going to interrupt Utah's season. I think Utah is not number 10.
Well, we can't talk about the fact that half of the Pac-12 is ranked right now.
Yeah, that's a little weird, right?
Yeah, I mean they're tied with the SEC for the most ranked teams right now.
You know me. You know us. We're SEC bias. I just don't see it.
There's not an SEC bias. There's an Alabama bias, but that's another story.
They drag us all up because we play them.
I mean, yeah, whatever. But
so much real salt in your voice. Like not even playing, just like yeah, okay.
But yeah,
USC. I think it's a close one, but I think that they take the lead and then
bunch of offense in this one because I don't know about either defense.
USC outpaces them.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't think Utah has the lead, but maybe like a field goal in the first half or a touchdown in the first half.
Yeah. Tell me about Appalachian State at North Carolina.
In North Carolina. Oh, I'm taking North Carolina all the way. I'm big on Matt Brown right now. I think Appalachian State is obviously a dangerous team. They've always kind of got that, like, hey, we can upset you. That kind of energy going, but I'm taking North Carolina all the way.
Yeah. I'm also a fan of Mac Brown. I'm big on North Carolina right now, but give me Appalachian State because I like Appalachian State. And I think this game is going to be very high scoring. I think it's going to be. This is my recliner game of the week. I think it's going to be a very good game, but although I may not be able to watch it because it's be on the ACC network, but yeah, I think it'll be a very good game. But I think Appalachian State by like less than a touchdown.
Give me your realistic opinion. First of all, you're wrong.
Okay.
But second of all,
sure, that's fine. I'm happy to be wrong. If I'm wrong, oh well. I'm happy to be wrong.
Yeah,
being wrong is one of the greatest pleasures I know in life.
Care to elaborate on that?
I
feel like there's something deeper there you want to...
Oh, it's like a whole fear of failure type of thing. Like,
sure.
If you're not scared, like, I feel like there's a marginal difference between, like, there's not a lot of difference between being scared to fail and being scared of being wrong because wrong and failure is kind of the same thing, like a little bit. So if you're not scared to lose, if you're not scared to be wrong, then you can't. It doesn't affect you as much. You don't dwell on it.
It's the whole you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Precisely. So like, if I'm wrong, oh well, I'll get the next one.
So this is not me asking you about a game. This is me quizzing you on if you're right or wrong.
All right.
About being right or wrong. But this is a quiz.
All right.
Who is going to win in Notre Dame versus Georgia?
Georgia. Real big.
Okay, real big. Okay.
Yeah, Georgia by a lot. Like, it's not going to be right. It's not going to be that 1 point, like, what was it, like 20-19 like it was 2 years ago. I don't think Notre Dame should be in the top 10. I think Georgia gets them handedly.
I would much prefer, we were just talking about Utah. I think that Notre Dame and Utah are like higher teen.
Yeah.
Team. Like, I think they're like 18 and 19 teams.
Yeah.
But Notre Dame has their reputation. I understand why it's hard to take them out. But I think with an embarrassing loss here, which I really think is coming, I think Georgia's going to run all over them. I think it's going to be a slow start because Georgia is a slow start team.
Mm-hmm.
Second half is really going to bust loose, and it's going to get ugly quick in Athens.
Yeah. Jake Fromm's going to throw like a 50-yard touchdown pass to like big receiver that wears number 1 that they've got in like the start of the second quarter, and then the floodgates are going to open.
I agree with you. So
yeah,
that's
like, this is the biggest game of the weekend. Gameday is in Athens for this game, but it's going to be Georgia all day.
Give me, and this is my recliner game of the week. Give me your Colorado versus Arizona State score.
Colorado versus Arizona State. Ooh.
That's going to be fun, right?
Yeah, Arizona State just came off a big upset of Michigan State under dubious circumstances. But Colorado did just lose to Air Force. So
Right.
But it went to overtime. But again, Air Force is a military school. They run that triple option offense, which is
Well in overtime.
Yeah, that same offense that Army almost used to beat.
Again, overtime, which does not.
Yeah,
That offense does not very well in overtime because you got to be able to.
I'm gonna go. Give me the Sun Devils. I like Arizona State in this one.
I like Arizona State too, as well. I do think it's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. I think if this game goes to overtime, I like Colorado just because they've been there so much this season. Twice. I think it would almost be really fun if they went to a third overtime. Has that ever happened before? We ever had a team go to 3 overtimes in a row, back-to-back weeks?
Oh, I'm sure it's happened.
Yeah, but I think if they go to overtime, Colorado gets it done. But if they keep it close, I think Colorado can get it done. But I'm taking Arizona. That's where my money's at.
Yeah.
Especially after their big win.
Oh, for sure. So, tell me about the other kind of big game of the weekend, which is number 11 Michigan at number 13 Wisconsin.
Yeah. This game, I think in Wisconsin, right?
Yeah, they're going to be in Camp Randall.
Yeah, this will be a fun game. It'll be a morning game, and you know how morning games are. Funny things happen.
Yeah, funny things always happen in morning games.
I think this is going to be a sneaky good game. I think Michigan, typically anytime I watch a Michigan game, it is sort of always anticlimactic until right up at the end. I think this is going to be a sneaky back and forth game. I think it's going to be a lot of mistakes in the first half. I think it's 11 a.m. games. The turnovers always seem to be rampant. Hey, everybody. Sorry we had a bit of a technical difficulty there.
Yeah, but we are back, and we are talking about...
As Wi-Fi did a hiccup.
Yeah, we are talking about Michigan and Wisconsin. Daryl, I believe you just said who you're picking in this one right before we kind of cut out there.
Yeah, I'm taking Wisconsin in a sloppy first half game that comes out, and it's kind of interesting in the second half. I think it's going to be sneaky good, but I'm pretty pumped. I think it's going to be a fun game.
Yeah, these teams have been ranked before, played in a high top 10, top 15 matchup before, and Michigan historically has done well. But I'm not really a believer in Michigan right now, so I'm gonna take Wisconsin. But I think it's going to be scrappy. It's going to be ugly.
We got a showdown in College Station this weekend. Who you got?
Oh, this one is so difficult because.
This game every year is always just a toss.
Yeah, this one is hard to pick, right? Because it never goes the way it's supposed to, right? Like Auburn will be highly ranked, and then A&M will get them, and then A&M will be highly ranked, and then Auburn will get them, and it's like this game never goes how it's supposed to. There have been some historically great games between these two teams.
If I'm being honest with you, I think it goes how what's Auburn's head coach? I don't know why. It goes how Gus Malzahn goes. I think it just depends on what part of the season he's on, because sometimes there's some times where he looks like he doesn't it's confusing. So it just depends. It depends which Gus Malzahn's going to be coaching, where they're at in the season. It's really early, so it's tough to tell. Historically, early has been better. I think the last time they had him this early was like the year that they went to Auburn and won with Trevor Knight. So, but they also had Myles Garrett, and then they were struggling at quarterback. So,
yeah,
they think they found their guy in Bo Nix. So I don't know.
Yeah, here's my thing. This is going to be Bo Nix's first real road SEC test. I think Bo Nix is going to be very good going forward. But I think I'm going to take A&M in this one, simply because they're established. Kellen Mond, if Kellen Mond can fix some of the mistakes he made against Clemson, I know he's got another game under his belt against Lamar. He had a game against Lamar to iron that stuff out. But if he can get those mistakes ironed out and he can work on some of those things, I think this is going to be a very good game. I think it ends up being like a 35-31, 42-35 type of game. But I'm gonna go with the Aggies in this one. Biases aside, I like A&M.
I I feel similar. I think it's going to be close. What I like about this game, and again, I think it's just similar to the Clemson game in that it goes as Kellen Mond goes. Because with the Clemson game, we're looking at an A&M defense that was getting injured throughout the game and still managed to hold Trevor Lawrence to 24 points at home. So you turn around and suddenly A&M has the home field advantage. You're looking at a team that is looking to bounce back from that Clemson loss. Again, I really don't think that Bo Nix is going to have as much success as Trevor Lawrence did. I think that if A&M can get on the board early, I like our chances. So I'm taking A&M. I think they'll probably pull it out, but it's going to be a very close game. It's going to be a nail biter.
Oh, for sure.
We need to win at home. That's what I want the most.
Yeah, a win at home would be great for A&M. So
absolutely.
You got any uniforms or traditions or anything you want to talk about this week?
You kind of covered a really good tradition earlier with the whole Skillet game.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty into that. That was nice.
Yeah, that was fun. Let me see. Let me pick some uniforms because I didn't have any going forward. There was a couple I missed last week that I saw. That I wish I kind of would have talked about, but I didn't.
It was week 4.
Yeah. I really like. I think I may have talked about them already. No, here's what we're going to talk about. Pittsburgh, University of Pittsburgh. They changed their uniforms. They used to wear like navy and old gold. Now they're going back to that like royal blue and like yellow, like that old school kind of St. Louis Rams logo.
They just look like UCLA.
Color. Yeah. Well, UCLA is like a light
gold.
blue and gold, but
yeah, they look good though. I kind of like it. The contrast is nice.
Yeah, it looks really good. Like, because they would wear
the font. The font looks nice too.
Yeah, because they would wear these as throwbacks, but now these are their all the time.
I dig it.
Yeah.
This honestly, and this is going to be a weird comparison. This reminds me when the Astros went back to their like 90s uniforms and stuck with those, like modernized it a little bit.
Yeah. And I like this shady yellow, this like mustard yellow.
Yeah, funny, I do too.
Which is funny because they play in Heinz Field, who makes ketchup but also makes mustard. So.
Yeah. I'm into it, man. I like it. That's a nice uniform.
Yeah, and obviously, they've had them out, and if you've paid attention, you've seen them. But yeah, I just think they look good.
I want to hear about this list because you've been hyping up this list since before the podcast, and now I'm ready to know. Yeah,
so we're gonna get into the teams that have never hosted College Game Day. Obviously, we're both big fans of College Game Day. Obviously, it's the premier show in college football. It's really fun. Like, obviously, I went last weekend, and I had a blast. So, there are 10 teams currently. It was 11 before this past weekend. The list currently is California, Duke, Illinois, Kansas, Maryland, Minnesota, Rutgers, Syracuse, Virginia, and Wake Forest. And I'm going to ask you this, Daryl. Which one of these teams do you think is most likely to host? Which one of these teams will host first?
Ooh, well, just based on what I'm seeing right now, I think it will be Virginia because I think if Virginia can get maybe 1 or 2 more key wins, they just popped in the top 25. It wouldn't surprise me. Actually, let me look at their schedule.
I'm also about to look at their schedule because I think it's going to be them.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be them who make it next, right? So
right, it makes sense, right? I mean,
like,
granted, that's not who I would pick next.
Yeah. So obviously, they've got.
Almost when you said obviously like that, I almost did. Obviously, there's a rapist in Lincoln Park. You know what I'm talking about from Antoine Johnson?
Oh yeah. That hide your kids, hide your wife bull.
Hide your kids, hide your wife. That's the most 2011 thing ever.
Yeah. They don't really have any games left on their schedule this year.
Why not?
That that could have game day. The only one that could have game day would be next weekend when they go to Notre Dame. But I doubt that because Notre Dame is going to get beat like a stepchild this weekend.
Looking at their basketball schedule, I was like, what is going on?
No. I mean, they're also very good in basketball. But like they don't have to play Clemson. Like, if they keep playing the way they playing, they might. They have a very favorable reason to go undefeated. Like, look at the schedule.
Dude. I just became the biggest Virginia fan right now.
Like, the toughest game they have left is Notre Dame, and I think they win that game. Then they have Duke at home. They go to North Carolina. Then they have Liberty at home. They have Old Dominion at home. Then they go to Miami, to Louisville, and then they get Georgia Tech and Virginia Tech at home in back-to-back weeks.
If they win next week, which if they win this weekend, they should. Then they have Notre Dame. There's a possibility it could be Notre Dame.
If they really wanted to. Yeah, I said that backwards though. I went that schedule out of order. They go to Notre Dame, and then they go to Miami, Duke at home, to Louisville, to North Carolina, Georgia Tech at home, Liberty at home, Virginia Tech at home. I had it out of order because it's going left to right instead of up and down. I'm looking
at the same thing. Yeah, I was just like, wait a minute, what's first? Yeah, I mean, I think if they win this weekend, which they should, and if Notre Dame also wins this weekend, it's a possibility. I mean, you'd think they go up.
But yeah, I think that's good for their schedule, but I don't think they're going to host game day this year. I think the one most likely to host this year is going to be Rutgers. Simply because of the fact that, not that Rutgers is doing well or they're going to be playing in a hotly contested game, just simply because this is the 150th season of college football, and Rutgers was where the first football game was played, first college football game was played. So I think there's a chance they just pick a game when Rutgers is playing somebody and they just go there, or they pick like two historic programs or something like that. So I think the best chance this season is Rutgers, but I also, part of me doesn't think that's going to happen. So the next one I see is definitely Virginia.
If I could just pick of my own opinion of just who I want it to be, I'd pick Kansas because I want Les Miles to be on the show and talk about.
I'm so big on I'm so big on Kansas right now. Like, they won their first game and then they got upset by Coastal Carolina and then they put up 41 on Boston College. Like, I'm so glad Les Miles is back to coaching. You know, obviously me being a big LSU fan, I grew up watching his coaching. And let
me get them in North Carolina in a bowl game this year.
That would be beautiful. I would be so happy.
Oh,
Les versus Mac Brown, that'd be great. But yeah,
so that's like one of those SmackDown versus Raw Legends mode thing where you get two like Andre the Giant versus Shawn Michaels or something.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, dude, that would be. I'm big on Kansas right now. So I'm also big on North Carolina. I know we both are. I just two really fun coaches that we're both glad they're back to coaching.
It's just a good time to be a college football fan.
It is a great time to be a college football fan. But I mean,
packed weekend ahead of us.
Yeah, but also anytime's a good time to be a college football fan because college football is the best sport in the world. Don't at me.
Don't at me. Don't at any of us.
Yeah, college football is beautiful, and when I say that, I mean it in the literal sense of the term. Crazy stuff can happen. All these crazy stories we hear about, like these inspiring stories, cool traditions, cool uniforms. College football is just the best. And I'm glad that you decided to do this podcast with me.
I don't think there's anything we could have done I don't think we can end on a better note than that because I'm kind of tearing up now. You got me hyped. I'm ready to run through a wall.
Oh, for sure. So, but yeah, that's about all we got. Thank you all for listening.
I'm going to give you a metaphorical handshake over the mic.
Yes, sir. Daryl, you got anything else?
Giga Maggies.
Yeah, go Tigers.
All right. Y'all have a good one.
Yes, sir. Bye, everybody.